Got a man from Nashville Sports Radio, Bill King, joining us here on Halftime. Bill, appreciate you joining us here, and Merry Christmas, my friend.
You too, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely, my friend. Lots of news to get to, so let's jump right into it. Auburn has their new head man, Brian Harsin, the new head Tiger for the Auburn Tigers. And after all the names that we had seen come across with Sarkisian, Venables, Napier, Clark, what do you think of Brian Harsin being named the new Auburn head coach?
Well, if it was about outside the box, if it was, let's not do the Auburn thing again. Let's go get somebody outside the box. Obviously, Brian Harsin is a well-known name, but geographically speaking, you wouldn't have thought that would be a connection, but it turned into one. It'll be interesting. Auburn is a fantastic job and also a difficult one, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Regionally, it's in a geographic hot spot. You get close to Florida. You're over there really close to Atlanta. Lots of players to choose from. The negative side is you're in the state of Alabama with the best program maybe ever, and you're fighting all these teams for players. So it'll be interesting, guys.
Do you think that possibly scared off like the Sarkisians and the Venables that they were trying to go get just because, like you just mentioned, you're going against the greatest program ever, against the greatest head coach that probably ever lived?
Well,
or maybe scared off wasn't the right way to say it, but just the high expectations that you have at Auburn, I guess is probably the better way to put it.
Yeah, Gus won almost 40% of those games,
mm-hmm.
So there's been more success there than anybody else against them. You could argue Clemson, obviously, but well, first of all, let's go Venables. I'll be quick. His kids are at Clemson, and they're football guys. I mean, he's not going to leave there. He's making 2.5. There's a comfort level there. There's a safety level. You're not going to get Sark. I really think, guys, that if this continues to trend and Sark hangs around, he could very well be the next coach at Alabama. It may be 5 years down the road. He's turning down overtures. And I think, again, every day's a new day, but I think that's a possibility there. And, again, he's got a comfort level. And you got to remember, Alabama's been very important to him. He needed them. And they've resuscitated his career.
That's a good way to put it, because I hadn't really necessarily thought about the idea of Sarkisian maybe being the next man in line for the Alabama job, because and I agree with you to a point that some of these coaches just are comfortable in the situations that they are, and while they may want to become head coaches in the next few years or something,
right?
Like Venables and Sarkisian, you can't ask for a better situation that they're in. I mean, they're with high-level programs. They don't have to worry about rebuilds or anything like that. They can just go in, make their money, do their jobs, and be at the top of the food chain amongst college football.
And you get to be in the ACC, which you totally own.
Yep.
You own it all. You're always going to have an offense that protects you. They recruit so well there. You're going to get the top-ranked type players on defense, too. Now, look, all the kids move on, and, hey, it's time for me to be in the main office. He'll probably do that someday, but I don't think now's the time for, a Venables.
And it could be the same way where whenever Dabo Swinney hangs it up or goes somewhere different for his career,
yep,
that could be a Brent Venables job that he just slides right in, takes over Clemson just for that comfort level. Bill King here with us on Halftime. Bill, let's move over to the college football playoff, and we talked about this last week. We knew there was going to be controversy abound in this, and it never ceased to let us down with Ohio State jumping in as the 3 seed, Notre Dame as the 4. Lots I want to get into with first here. First, want to ask you this. Did A&M get hosed in this, or did the right 4 teams – let me rephrase that. Did the 3 and 4 seed, did they get those right, or did A&M get screwed out of it?
I don't think A&M got screwed. Now, again, did they have an argument? Sure. Sure. Jimbo had a really, really good year, and they're trending well. But Notre Dame's got a better resume, even with the loss that I feared would be one-sided. I didn't want it to be, but I feared it would be. They're in the championship game. Here's the other thing. The committee, and I've tried to explain this forever, even back to the BCS. The committee does consider your brand, and they did not want, under any circumstance, an A&M Alabama repeat. And A&M would have been the 4 seed if they got in. Alabama's going to be the 1 seed. And they did not want a Clemson Notre Dame game 3, which if you made Ohio State the 4 seed, that's what you would have had. Nobody will ever convince me that wasn't key when it came to the seeding. It was,
right.
And that's why they did what they did.
Moving over to look at kind of at the Cincinnati scheme of things, and they had an incredible year of themselves. Didn't play any Power 5 teams, but they were a dominant team coming out of the AAC and left out on the outside looking in, and for fine reasons. I get there's all the teams that are ahead of them obviously deserve it. I get that. But a lot of fans love to see the underdog, including myself. I know you do too. Like to see the underdog get a shot at the bone and try to get the national championship. I don't know if the Clemson or if Cincinnati would have been able to do it, but it's fun to think about. So what needs to happen in your mind moving forward? A lot of people want expansion. You've heard Cincinnati say they want the BCS to come back to try to give them a fair shake at it. If you're in charge, is expansion the option? Is it just suck it up and get over it?
Well,
like, what's the option here?
No, the masses don't want me in charge because if I'm in charge, we never would have left the BCS. And I am anti-expansion, but they're going to expand. So those wanting the non-Power 5, Cincinnati, a very good team, as you said, to have a shot. Look, those guys don't have a shot under the current setup. It's going to have to be expansion. Now, here's the other item. Everybody acts like expansion is the key here, and it's not. And let me explain why. When they expand, which they will, I don't think they'll get to the end of this contract 6 more years before they expand, probably to 8. There will be some kind of provision that gets a non-Power 5 in like the Cincinnati. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. But you have to understand, folks, once you start with the playoffs and once you start expanding, the only conversation that's ever left is how much more.
Yep.
And the big bellyache will be, why did number 9 get screwed? And that goes on until the end of time, till a meteorite hits the earth and wipes the whole planet out. And that's why expansion is not the magic elixir. Here's the other item with expansion. Let's say there's a provision. You get Cincinnati in. All you're going to get is more chalk. You're going to get more SEC and more Big Ten in.
See, that was kind of the point that I was wanting to make, too, because a lot of people are tired of the Alabama-Clemson matchup and Notre Dame being in there, Ohio State being in there, but what are those 4 teams supposed to do? They're the best for a reason. I mean,
Right.
I get it gets stale. I get that 110%. But you're going to ask Alabama to just slack off for a year and not get in the playoff? Like, they're the best teams for a reason, and other teams just need to step it up and make the changes.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I know most people do want expansion. I'm in a very tiny minority, but that's just going to make it chalkier, and it's not going to solve all the world's problems like everybody thinks.
Last thing I want to touch on here with you real quick. Tomorrow we'll know the Heisman finalists for the Heisman Trophy. I know a lot of people aren't necessarily as pro on the Heisman. Neither am I. But it's more or less a quarterback award. And it could be a Devontae Smith award this year for the wide receiver at Alabama. But in my mind, Trevor Lawrence secured that award Saturday after that performance against Notre Dame. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, he's clearly the best player. But that award's never been about the best player necessarily. So I don't think he's going to win it. I think unless there's a problem here, I'll tell you what the odds, and we had our Vegas guy on this morning. Devontae Smith is out front right now.
Really? Okay.
Clearly. Now, I don't know, again, those guys are smart, right? They make money for a reason. But Smitty's out in front right now. The debate would be, would Mac Jones votes, would Najee Harris votes eventually take votes away from him. That might happen, but Smitty right now is probably out in front.
That's interesting. It's gonna be a lot of fun to talk about next week when we get back here. But Bill, we'll let you go with that. Merry Christmas to you and your family. We appreciate everything you've done for this halftime show prior to with Ty and Phil, and now myself, Maddie T, and Phil. Thank you so much for what you do. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and we will talk to you next Wednesday, my friend.
You too, guys. Thank you very much.
That's Bill King, of Nashville Sports Radio, joins us every Wednesday here on Halftime.